Esther chapter 3. Spiritual gems and their application. Verse 5. As soon as Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down and do obeisance to him, Haman became filled with rage. Spiritual gem. Integrity in worship. Application. Mordecai's refusal to bow down highlights the importance of integrity in worship. We should prioritize our worship of Jehovah above any human demands or expectations. Verse 8. Haman then said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, and their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interests to tolerate them. Spiritual gem. Opposition due to faithfulness. Application. The accusations against the Jews remind us that faithful worshippers may face opposition due to their unique customs and loyalty to God's laws. We should expect challenges and remain steadfast in our obedience to Jehovah. Verse 13. So the letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces to annihilate, kill, and destroy all the Jews, young and old, women and children, on the same day, the 13th day of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Spiritual gem. Facing persecution. Application. The plot against the Jews teaches us that persecution can arise suddenly and affect people of all ages. We should be prepared to face challenges and rely on Jehovah's guidance and protection. Verse 15. The couriers went out speedily by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Shushan the citadel. The king and Haman sat down to drink, while the city of Shushan was in confusion. Spiritual gem. Worldly indifference to injustice. Application. The king and Haman's indifference to the consequences of their decree reflects the world's attitude toward injustice. In contrast, we should be concerned about the suffering of others and advocate for righteousness. Verse 16. Meanwhile, Mordecai went out from before the king in royal attire of blue and white, with a great crown of gold and a garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan was joyful and celebrating. Spiritual gem. Jehovah's deliverance. Application. Mordecai's change in fortune illustrates Jehovah's deliverance. Even in dire circumstances, Jehovah can turn situations around for the benefit of his people. We should trust in his ability to provide solutions and bring joy. Esther chapter 4. Spiritual gems and their application. Verse 3. In each and every province where the king's word and decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many were lying down in sackcloth and ashes. Spiritual gem. Seeking God's help in times of crisis. Application. The response of the Jews to impending danger teaches us the importance of seeking God's help during times of crisis. When facing challenges, we should turn to prayer, fasting, and heartfelt supplication to Jehovah. Verse 14. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you may have attained to royal status for such a time as this. Spiritual gem. Recognizing divine appointments. Application. Mordecai's words to Esther highlight the concept of divine appointments. We should be alert to opportunities where Jehovah may use us to accomplish his purpose. Our actions in critical moments can make a difference in his service. Verse 16. Go, gather all the Jews who are found in Shushan, and fast in my behalf, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night and day, and I with my attendants will also fast in the same way. After that, I will go into the king, which is against the law. If I must perish, I shall perish. Spiritual gem. Courage and sacrifice for a righteous cause. Application. Esther's resolve to approach the king, even at the risk of her life, exemplifies courage and sacrifice for a righteous cause. We should be willing to take bold steps in Jehovah's service, knowing that he values our obedience. Verse 17. So Mordecai went his way and did everything that Esther had commanded him. Spiritual gem. Obedience and unity in God's work. Application. Mordecai's obedience to Esther's instructions underscores the importance of unity in God's work. We should cooperate and support one another, recognizing that our collective efforts advance Jehovah's purpose. Verse 14. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you may have attained to royal status for such a time as this. Spiritual gem. Jehovah's ultimate deliverance. Application. Mordecai's confidence in Jehovah's deliverance serves as a reminder of God's ultimate power to save his people. We should have faith that, regardless of the circumstances, Jehovah can provide deliverance and relief. Verse 16. If I must perish, I shall perish. Spiritual gem. Commitment to Jehovah's will. Application. Esther's commitment to fulfill Jehovah's will, even in the face of potential danger, exemplifies dedication and loyalty. We should likewise prioritize Jehovah's will above personal safety and comfort. In Esther chapter 4, we find spiritual gems about seeking God's help in crisis, recognizing divine appointments, courage and sacrifice, obedience and unity in God's work, Jehovah's ultimate deliverance, and commitment to Jehovah's will. These principles offer valuable guidance for our faith and service to Jehovah today. Esther chapter 5. Spiritual gems and their application. Verse 2. As soon as the king saw Esther the queen standing in the courtyard, she gained favor in his eyes. The king extended to Esther the golden scepter he was holding, and Esther approached and touched the top of the scepter. Spiritual gem. Jehovah's timing and favor. Application. Esther's favor with the king at that precise moment demonstrates Jehovah's timing and favor. We should trust that Jehovah can open doors and provide favor in our interactions with others when we seek his guidance. Verse 3. The king then said to her, "What is it, Queen Esther? What do you want? Even if it is half the kingdom, it will be given to you." Spiritual gem. Approaching authorities with respect. Application. Esther's respectful approach to the king serves as an example when dealing with authorities. We should approach those in positions of authority with respect and humility when seeking assistance or making requests. Verse 4. Esther replied, "If it pleases the king, may the king together with Haman come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him." Spiritual gem. Wisdom and patience in planning. Application. Esther's careful planning and patience in inviting the king and Haman to a banquet demonstrate the value of wisdom and strategic thinking. In our service to Jehovah, we should plan and act wisely, seeking favorable opportunities. Verse 7. So Esther replied, "My request and my petition is." Spiritual gem. Effective communication in making requests. Application. Esther's concise and clear communication in making her request highlights the importance of clarity and effectiveness when making requests. We should be direct and specific when presenting our petitions to Jehovah in prayer. Verse 9. So Haman went out on that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and he did not rise and did not tremble before him, Haman was filled with indignation against Mordecai. Spiritual gem. Integrity and loyalty to God. Application. Mordecai's refusal to show deference to Haman reveals his loyalty to God and integrity. We should prioritize our loyalty to Jehovah over the expectations of others, even when it leads to opposition. Verse 14. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Let them make a stake 50 cubits high, and in the morning tell the king to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go in with the king to the banquet in good spirits." This advice seemed good to Haman, so he had the stake prepared. Spiritual gem. Beware of counsel that promotes wrongdoing. Application. Haman's acceptance of advice to harm Mordecai teaches us to be cautious of counsel that promotes wrongdoing. We should always evaluate advice in light of Jehovah's principles and act in harmony with his moral standards. Verse 14. This advice seemed good to Haman, so he had the stake prepared. Spiritual gem. Consequences of unrighteous actions. Application. Haman's decision to prepare the stake for Mordecai demonstrates that unrighteous actions have consequences. We should consider the consequences of our choices and strive to act in harmony with Jehovah's principles. In Esther chapter 5, we find spiritual gems about Jehovah's timing and favor, approaching authorities with respect, wisdom and patience in planning, effective communication in making requests, integrity and loyalty to God, being cautious of unrighteous counsel, and considering the consequences of our actions. These principles offer valuable guidance for our faith and service to Jehovah today.